Hello, Drunkduckers. This is Ozone Ocean, and with me is Baines and Tance. Hello.
Hi, I'm actually not Baines. My name's Dittman. I'm different, a different guy. Baines, I swear a lot more than Baines, and I'm sometimes wrong about things, so I'm not Baines.
Baines is never wrong about things, so that's
exactly yeah.
That's weird. Okay, Dittman.
That's how you can tell. But Tance is also here. Sorry.
Yeah, Tance is here because her brain is just too tired to think of how she isn't here, so she's here.
Oh dear. So our topic is A and B plots. So anyway. This is the Drunkduck Quackcast, of course, as you already know, and yeah, we're talking A and B plots, which are very important these days more than ever, because these days people are doing like serialized bloody stories and everything, where you need your big A plot to join all the stuff together, or sometimes it's made as a B plot. So yeah, but you always have A and B and C and D and E and whatever plots in a lot of stories. Very rarely do you just have one A plot, unless you're doing a first-person story. Then that's more likely.
You can still have a B plot with a first-person story.
Well, time jumps and things, I suppose. But...
Well, no, you can have the goal. Say, for example, it's a detective who's on a case. That's your A plot, and then he's got some kind of personal issue going on. That's your B plot.
True. But yeah, so A plots are just A plot by themselves are a little bit more rare, though. When you just do that.
Yeah.
Although it's fine to do.
Yeah. And honestly, I'm not even sure if you can have super purely just A plot.
Well, we'll get into that when we've got to introduce the feature.
Yeah. All right.
I'm excited. I love it.
First Quackcast of the new year, and you guys are just chomping at the bit.
It's January. We're all full of energy, and then within 2 weeks, we'll all be done for.
Yeah.
Back to normal. All right. So the feature comic this week was Augusta Fighter. And I'm going to tell you about that now. Hello, I'm Ozone Ocean, and my feature for this Quackcast 721, was Augusta Fighter. This quaint little village of Quackcast is reached by sea. It seems a normal enough place, if a bit sleepy. It's a stop on the journey to the big top. A place where clowns go to train and get jobs, like an adventurers guild, if you will. Clowns in this world have superpowers. They call them tricks, and they use them to fight one another. A red-haired girl gets off the boat at Quackcast and is immediately confronted by a darkly robed, grinning, enigmatic figure. Will she be able to fight him? This is an adventure shonen manga with lots of comedy thrown in. The style is initially rough, but quickly improves, and the story is quietly compelling, as shonen usually is. You know how shonen manga is, at least the anime versions, which you're all familiar with, like Naruto. And this is actually inspired by One Piece, you can really tell. And One Piece is, of course, a shonen manga. These things always, go forever and ever and ever, because you just, consume them, and you want to know what happens next. And this comic is a bit like that. So, anyway, I hope you like it. It's a comic by Ue Edgelord, and it's rated T for teen, so read it. And that was Augusta Fighter, so I would have talked to you about that. Okay, now we have the featured theme. This week, Gummalus has given us a theme too. Alfie's World. Exciting electronica salsa, shimmying and shimmering across the glittering dance floor, shaking the hips, grinding and sliding to this cool, sophisticated Latin sound. So take it away, Gummalus, with your theme to Alfie's World. Thank you very much, Gumwallace. That was an amazing theme to Alfie's World, which is a comic by Reality Jockey, rated M. So read it if you want to get a clue as to what that music is suggesting. Okay, guys, we're back. Now we can talk about the topic of the cast. Oh, dear. All right, so A and B plots. Now we can talk. So, Tance, you were saying you can't. Just a pure A plot is rare. Is that what you were saying?
Yeah, I think, like, if you really think about it, like having a solely, completely, like, no variation A plot only in the story is rare, in my opinion. Because you have. What is a B plot? A B plot is a series of events that aren't directly impactful to the A plot, let's say, but that they serve purposes that are necessary to storytelling, like developing the characters, giving them more depth, raising the stakes of the A plot, and a whole bunch of these kinds of things. So having just the A plot, I think, is narratively almost not recommended, I would say, unless you somehow manage to do everything in the A plot, which,
Right.
Well, I mean, it's more common in a short story, where you have to have things contained because you can't really spread out in those. And also stories by people who are less experienced. So a child writing a story or someone who's just not used to doing it, where you'll have limited focus. So, yeah, in those special circumstances, yeah. But for a longer form story, it's going to be very hard to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Very difficult. Like, even, I would say, like, Pinky TA sort of started doing that as just an A plot. And quickly it branches out, because it's really hard just to stick with that, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I started pretty quickly in Typical Strange when I started it. Pretty quickly it became often an A plot and a B plot with different characters. It was to keep it gives you something to cut away from, sort of a break, and hopefully it keeps things interesting enough, and a couple of different things going on. Also, there were so many characters to set up, 6 main characters, so
yeah.
And maybe the A plot is a little heavy. You want a fun B plot, to give a little bit of that.
And when you've got more than one character, say 2 characters competing with each other, and you want to go, okay, now what's this character doing? And what's this character? Suddenly you've got A and B. Or A and A. You can't stop that.
Yeah.
So just automatically, it just branches. You have to.
Exactly.
And that can branch again.
Or imagine, like, for example, you mentioned in the video cast that you like the episodic type of story. So imagine that may be like loosely serialized, but mostly episodic. So you have let's take a classic Saturday morning cartoon format where you have like a bunch of characters all together. They team up to fight the big bad whatever of the week. Okay, but in this particular episode, they fall out, which is like something that happens every other week or something. They fall out, and one of the team leaves in anger or convinced that they can do better, or whatever. They leave for some reason. Immediately, you now have A plot and B plot, which is whatever big bad of the week is there, posing the main, standard problem. That's the A plot. And then the B plot of the guy that left and what they are doing. So, yeah.
Okay.
Within an episode, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, yeah, and a lot of them, like, so I watched a lot of, like, say, American Dad. You know, one of those things. They have as the standard A and B stories as just like a formula, which they will always do, and
probably like this sitcom formula that's been in place for decades, right? Like it's probably like pretty much that, the A and B stuff.
Yeah.
And they do it as a massive formula, and it gets a bit annoying because it's too formulaic.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You focus on these characters, and you focus on, and this story is the main one, and this story is the the comic relief, or this story is the secondary importance.
Oh my god, if you do that, that's annoying. That's so annoying. Like, oh yeah, now we're switching back to the comic reliefs where we are, especially if the audience is not ready to laugh. They don't want to laugh. They want to see what is going on with the serious stuff. That can be. I mean, I'm talking about me as an audience. That's very frustrating for me. Like, no, I don't want a joke. Please let me see what happened with the Indian guy.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
I agree. Yeah, I like the idea of like that the plots can switch importance.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, so we start off with an A and a B, but the B becomes the A, and the A becomes the B.
Yeah.
And it just and they can switch again. So the other, the second A becomes less important again, and then fades down to a B again.
Yeah.
That way, you never know which one is the main one.
Yeah.
So you're never in that. Okay, so Tolkien. Tell us about Tolkien, Tans.
Oh my God.
Is the wrong way to do it.
I was about to talk about a good example, not a bad one. But yeah, the thing with Tolkien is that he definitely had, B plots, C plots, and what have you. But there are the moment, like in the end of Fellowship of the Ring, where the Fellowship disbands basically, and you have now Frodo and Sam going off towards Mordor, and everyone else going off to stuff because they are, all over the place, in my opinion. But anyway, going to fight the orcs and everything else and stuff. Then you immediately have two A plots happening in parallel because they are equally important. They are basically, it is a pincer movement to tear down Sauron. So you have, the halflings going in to destroy the ring, while everyone else goes to wage war, like the official war against Sauron. So they are both circling Sauron in this pincer movement to take him down. So you have two A plots, and you have to switch between them. And personally, that was so frustrating to me, because you immerse yourself in the A plot, and the B plots are happening around this A plot, like little satellites around the A plot, and then there is an abrupt stop at the end of XYZ chapter of the A plot, A1 plot, and then you are abruptly switched to the A2 plot and its own satellites of B plots. And it is like a complete change of pace, style, tone, than what you were already in sync with. It's like whiplash. And I personally don't like it. I remember when I first read it, I completely did the unorthodox thing. In that I went ahead and skipped all the chapters that were not about Frodo and Sam. I read the entire thing, and then went back and read the entire thing for the other ones, knowing that it was happening in tandem. And then I went on to, Return of the King. But Two Towers, I hated that book for that reason. And I was like, okay, which chapters are Frodo Sam? Okay, I'm reading these first. Then, and then when I had read the book once, then I went back and reread it properly, and I still didn't like it. So,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
I am a sucker for maintaining a cohesion in tone, and you can't when you switch this abruptly.
Right.
No,
Yeah.
you can't. It's awkward.
Mm.
You should blend somehow, or
Yeah.
make a transition.
Yeah, and you know what? This is a perfect segue into the example I wanted to talk about that does that very well. Well, you could argue it's not two A plots, but it's an A plot and a B plot, but it's an A plot and a B plot that switch in importance and they take precedence, over each other. And I'm going to talk about The Last Airbender, the series, the cartoon. All right. Avatar, The Last Airbender, the cartoon. We do not talk about the movies. And what you have, and this is especially masterful in the third season, is that you, and the second season as well, you have two A plots, which is the antagonist, that is Zuko, trying to catch the Avatar, and then the Team Avatar trying to stop the Fire Nation from being Nazis, basically. So you switch between those really smoothly because they intersect and they interact in brief moments when they come across each other, or they follow each other's trails. And so when you switch between them, it feels very organic and very natural, and you follow two A plots at the same time. And then when you go on into season 3, where, spoiler alert, but come on, it's been like so many years, when Zuko flips and joins Team Avatar, you have the B plot of Zuko having to basically redefine himself as a person that opposes the Fire Nation, and also as a friend to all these people that he has meticulously alienated by being their antagonist or betrayed even, especially when it comes to Katara and, her particular story. So that's a B plot, but it becomes the important one. And the A plot, which is stop the Fire Lord, takes a back seat, while you feel that in the background it's becoming more and more pressing. And I find that excellent because you follow the B plot, all the characters get fleshed out. You feel the looming danger happening, and you don't know exactly what is happening. You get a few hints, and then everything comes to a head, and the A plot and the B plot merge into a single one for the climax. And I think that is like perfect writing. Should be taught in schools. Yeah.
I mean, is that sort of a sense of being aware of what's happening in your particular story and being able to figure out that balance, or do you think it could be taught?
Our chances.
Oh, Chance is muted. I didn't even notice.
Yeah, I am muted because I was uncorking a wine bottle and pouring myself wine.
Nice.
So yeah, I didn't want those sound effects.
Yeah, no problem.
But
Yeah,
yeah, that's absolutely right what you said.
but I wonder if that can be taught, like, or if
It can.
that's like, you think so?
Oh
There's sort
yeah,
of a science
absolutely.
to it. Like, I mean, to story structure, there is. I think that definitely can be taught. There's lots of people
Mhm.
teaching it online and stuff. But that balance, like switching from a larger meta plot to a smaller self-contained plot, and like sort of to switch based on your individual story. I mean, I guess those concepts can be taught. Yeah, of course. And then you can sort of just understand what story you're trying to tell on the smaller level and the larger,
Yeah, I
and kind of
think
feel it out.
the biggest issue, and now I'm talking from my soapbox as a teacher and an expert in education now. You absolutely can't teach it, but you have to teach it in a way that is not going to be a formulaic or like a rubric of how you do it. Like I might have a method of doing that works extremely well for me. And I go into class to teach it. And I say, kids, you're gonna do this, and that. And if you don't do it this way, you fail.
Right.
So that would be a wrong way of teaching it because it's my way of doing this of making this effect happen, and that is something it's like my style of drawing, let's say. So what I should do is teach the strategy and learn and make the kids learn or students learn the mechanics of okay, how does this happen and why does this happen, and
Right.
that's if you teach that and you let people play with that sort of thing, then they develop their own ways of doing it that may be completely different from yours, but they again have the same effect. Otherwise, what you get is what Hollywood does, like, oh, this made us a lot of money. Let's now lift exactly what was done and do it in complete, in 50 different, IPs because we have no idea why it worked, but it worked. So, copy it,
Right.
like a magic picture, connect the dots, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like it's a
and
paint by
then
numbers or something. Yeah.
Mhm.
exactly, then whenever you do get a change, people go, "Oh my god, this is so original and clever and interesting," and you think, "No, that wasn't original and
Yeah.
clever. You're just mixing it up slightly." Jeez. You get these people like even like Tarantino hailed back in the day. Oh my god, Pulp Fiction was such an amazing film. Pulp Fiction was good, but that style of doing like the A and B stories and that isn't so clever.
Yeah.
That's really old fashioned, but because it hadn't been done for a while, it was an amazing sensation.
Maybe
Yeah.
combined in a new way. Star Wars. You could say the same thing about Star Wars, right? The first Star Wars.
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
a lot of this stuff had been done. It was combined in a new way, maybe, and
Mhm.
realized.
Well, combined in a way that hadn't been done in a while, maybe.
Yeah, definitely,
Right.
because it was like a completely classic, uh, late medieval, early like early modern proud knight, fair lady, basically story. just in,
I mean,
Right.
just in science fiction.
Baines is right in that it had that Star Wars hadn't been done at all in the form that it was. I mean, as a sci-fi thing, sci-fi science fantasy, because okay, so they got Akira Kurosawa or whatever, Hidden Fortress, blah blah blah. So the samurai movie, you got you got like a gunfighter western as well in there, and then you have like a World War II attack, like sea battles and all that kind of stuff, airplanes, all that, and then you've got the what was it, science fiction stuff. So no one had blended all those things before, but yeah, then
Right.
we're moving away from the. So you are right, Baines.
Woo! It had to happen eventually.
So that means
So-
that you're not Ditko or whatever his name is.
That's what I was We exposed you. And
That's the B plot.
That's right.
was Baines all along.
That's right. Always correct. Must be the real Baines.
And yeah, I haven't sweared once either. So or
That's
sworn
true.
Once.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
You
there
got
we
me.
go.
So that
It
was
was Elon Musk all along.
yeah. I think I like to go back to the whole A plot, B plot. I think that the secret to all of it, whether you do it like in the super masterful way, switching between them, blah blah, whatever. The secret to that is that they both have to be connected to each other in a way that pushes the plot forward. And when I say plot, I mean the overall plot, the overall issue, the overall quote unquote discussion that we're having. So you may have, like, for example, I don't know, let's take remember that movie with Christian Bale where they were in this post-apocalyptic oppressive world where
The dragon one?
the equilibrium where he did
I haven't
the
Gun
seen it.
movie.
gun kata, where he does the whole gun kata thing, and they all are dragged up out of their minds, so they don't have emotions and stuff. And the whole thing was that this is the wrong way to go, and that you should allow emotions as humans, blah blah, and all that. And of course, it was a little bit or a lot like 1984 meets, the Matrix, basically, in my opinion. But anyway, the idea that they had to deal with and contend with was what is oppression? How can you understand that you are being oppressed when you have been raised in this environment that grooms you to be compliant from a very young age, and all of that. And it had the A plot, which was the Christian Bale guy slowly discovering that he might be the body. And
Oh, really?
yeah, because he's one of the enforcers pursuing people that actually go against the law and try to feel things. And you also have the B plot of other characters that are trying to evade him and are within his family, they are friends and all of that, and they also develop in parallel to him, and they only meet once, basically. I don't want to spoil anything, even though it is a very old movie. Not many people have seen it. I really like it, recommend it. So the B plot is essential, even though it does not really offer too many things in the A plot, except when they meet in the end, because it offers you more immersion into the world, and it makes you understand the stakes, and it makes you see what it feels to live in this world. So the B plot is essential. If you take it away, the movie doesn't work as well, even though it is not like a B plot that directly impacts the A plot.
Right.
Okay. Our face has disappeared into the background.
No. Oh, I love it. That's great. Yeah. Yeah, and I had to go in the background.
Francis has made himself a B plot.
Exactly. A cup of B.
A cup of B. Oh, really? It's well, let's see. Did I didn't mention this in the main Quackcast yet. I mentioned the Patreon. Okay, so I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with the big serialized stories that are all the rage these days, because everything's made for binging. In the old days, it was more self-contained episodes was the fashion, because obviously stuff was made for TV and you weren't always able to watch things all in one go and you'd miss episodes and stuff like that. So that was how things were made. And even further back, stuff was made so there was no continuity between things, because that was so you could mix up the episodes in any order. That's just how things were done.
Yeah.
But yeah, then they started to have a bit of continuity between stuff, and characters would develop as things went on. And now things have gone into such a stage where that kind of stuff is, the self-contained stuff is unimportant, and it's just like the whole story continues fully through the thing. And Chance and Bones and I were talking about this in the Patreon, and we're saying that the A plot is basically the overarching big story, where all those things are connected, and you have to watch every single thing in order for the bigger story to develop. And the B plot is what happens within the self-contained episode. And of course, it's not that simple. It's like there's a B, C, and D or whatever. But the main A plot is the big thing that's happening and connecting stuff. And I find those very I find those a bit exhausting and a bit wearing, because it means that wherever you stop an episode, you don't feel completely satisfied, because you know the main story is something that's not going to be completed until you've watched the 16 hours or whatever to get to the final episode.
Yeah.
So, but before, this is the state of serialized stories these days. So they usually have the background thing as, not the background, but the main overarching story as the A plot. Before we went that far, serialized stories, the main overarching thing was the B plot, I think. It wasn't the main primary thing. It was just, oh, this is interesting, and we can see how it develops, but you're not required, to be to watch every single thing and to think, oh yeah, I really want to see how, what happens. It's just, yeah, this is an interesting thing that's happening and developing. And I think even before that, we had like maybe a D or a C plot as being the main overarching thing. Say, like, a crappy sitcom like Friends. I know people love Friends, but, so Friends is a thing, or How I Met Your Mother or something like that. So these were very popular sitcoms, and they were like self-contained, but they were also serialized, because characters would like meet up and get married. No, not married, but they could get into relationships with each other, and that would continue on. And, there was the overarching thing was the characters would develop and age as the thing went on. And say, How I Met Your Mother, the whole point of that was that the overarching plot was you're going to find out how he met, the mother of the children, what they mention in the very first episode. But that wasn't a B plot, that was like a D plot or something. And that is way less fatigue on you as an audience member, I think.
I'm glad you said this part with that as a way in the background. Like the overarching plot would be something that maybe gets a little, a little hint or a little something here and there in standalone episodes, but then it really maybe comes to the front, maybe at the end of a season or something like that. I like that, and then each episode has a beginning, middle, and end. I enjoy it very much. And then with continuing character development maybe or whatever, and then then we get a larger resolution.
I also want to offer an example for the B plot being the overarching one, and the A plot being the episodic one, where the B plot is more getting to know, like more of a character development, character building sort of thing. And I'm going to talk about the original MacGyver with Richard Dean Anderson. And this is like as episodic as it gets. You don't really need to start from the beginning. You can jump in at any time. You are going to enjoy, the story. However, there is a very subtle overarching B plot, and that is MacGyver's relationship and coming to terms with a couple of traumatic events that happened in his childhood, including losing his parents and all that, and his relationship with his grandfather. So you get small hints within episodes that are about a completely different thing, that he is solving a completely different issue. But then he suddenly gets this, for example, this flashback that explains, for example, why won't he touch guns? And you eventually learn why, although it is not essential for you to know why. You will not lose any kind of continuity if you don't know. But now that you know, every choice that he makes becomes more emotionally significant. And slowly you get tidbits and more tidbits about where he came from emotionally, who he is, and what he still has to grapple with. And in the end, you have this very quote unquote climactic episode, because it's not really a climax. It's an episode that you can watch just like any other, but it is an episode all about finally coming to terms with the death of his loved ones and his lack of communication that he had with his grandfather. And it becomes the A plot just for one episode.
Yeah.
It's still not the A plot. Like, you do still have the MacGyver episode, but it's worked enough to do this, and it's like a treat, if that makes sense.
It does.
And that is also very good writing, in my opinion.
That's
like
great.
If they were a little bit more faithful to the medical scenes, then that wouldn't make me laugh at them. It would still hold up really well. Beyond that, it holds up really well. The medical scenes have problems. But yeah, if they did that, and that's why it was very well written. And of course, that's why it was successful in its time.
And if you know that B-plot stuff, it enhances everything. It's so funny to hear you describe this, because I watched that all the time, and I have no memory of the parents and the grandfather storyline. I had no idea that stuff was even there, or I forgot about it.
Yeah.
I think of it as the sort of episodic adventures.
It starts a lot like you get more frequent hints around season 3. So maybe that's why. Like, I don't know. Do you remember that episode where he has the flashback with his friend that got shot by mistake, and he had to mod the bike into a stretcher to get his friend back to help? That was one. Yeah. So anyway, you probably
I don't remember any of that stuff, and I just started watching MacGyver again, and the first episodes are so boring.
Which one? Oh, the original one.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
First couple of episodes.
Yeah, I would suggest to skip the first at least 5 episodes, because they were
can't do that.
At the time, they were not exactly certain. They hadn't crystallized the character yet, so you have things that he doesn't do in the rest of the series. So he uses guns in ways that he doesn't use them actually. Like, the character isn't fully formed yet, is what I'm saying. So.
Right.
Yeah, he uses guns with, I think it was like some kind of village or something, and he was shooting it up. And had machine guns and stuff. Yeah, it was pretty full on, but Yeah, I mean, like he had this enormous machine gun. He was just shooting everyone. No, that was Commando with Arnold
That
Schwarzenegger.
was Commander. But he does shoot. He does.
It was very similar to that, though.
Yeah, he does also. He does do certain things that he, like any MacGyver fan, like P, would say that's out of character, and that's why we all have a consensus that we don't really take into consideration the first like 5 episodes or so as much.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm waiting until I get through them, and then I'll be into the good stuff. It's one of those things, like with classic kind of stuff. Oh, that was meant to be like properly serialized like that. They were finding their feet always, and they slowly improve and get better. Like I was watching 21 Jump Street, and the first couple of episodes of that are like a 2 episodes are basically 1 episode. So there we are. That's an example of a.
And I'll also give you a visual cue about MacGyver. Like when his hair gets a little blonder and the mullet a little more 80s, that's when you get to the good MacGyver. Like you want the mullet, to be to have more party in the back. Let's say that. That's when you get the good MacGyver. The previous MacGyver is weirdo, military, weird, non-MacGyver, proto-MacGyver. Let's say that.
Yeah, because I'd always thought of MacGyver when I was originally watching it as some kind of like, I didn't even know what he was like. He was just doing stuff out of the goodness of his heart when you sort of watch the normal MacGyver. But in the first few episodes, he's only doing stuff because he's like a spy. He's told to go and do something and fix something, and that's what he does.
Yeah. So
this isn't the MacGyver, remember?
Exactly. Yeah, he drops that. They drop the DXS thing, and when they switch to the Phoenix Foundation, which is a non-profit helping people, blah blah blah. That's when you get MacGyver. That's the. So yeah, personally, I always begin watching from season 2. Like I completely scrapped season 1. So yeah.
Oh God, that's a lot to get through then.
Yeah, no, it's gonna get better within season 1. It's just that I personally like to start from season 2.
And so MacGyver has a very distinct A and B.
Absolutely.
I don't know if it has. I mean, at least this first couple of episodes, they have a C plot as well. I don't think so. It's like it's not that many kind of different things. It's just A and B really, because it was writing in the early 80s, and it's a simple action series, at least when it starts. I mean, it's okay, so it's action and it's a bit of science, a bit of cleverness, and then that really picks up after a while. But yeah, A and B, very simple in those early ones. Yeah, I started watching 21 Jump Street, and just to say about the development, the first 2 episodes, amazing, and then it just turns to boring crap. Badly written. Yeah. So yeah, we've talked about our favorite ways of doing A and B and C and D plots. I'll just reiterate, my favorite is the one where you have like twin A plots, or no, not twin A plots. You have an A and a B plot, and C and D, but the A and the B, they can change into each other. Like the A becomes the B becomes the A, and then they change back. And I like that. That's really good. It's not just like it changes once, like, we fooled you, this isn't the A plot, it's actually the B plot. It's like it changes to A all over again. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
What about you? What's your favorite way of doing it?
Oh boy, it's funny because, like I said, I used to do an A plot and a B plot as a way to. Mostly, I was trying to introduce the new characters when my comic was new, but I would do it later too to have a little fun. If say if there was a more relationshipy, even if it was a comedic romance thing going on in the A plot, I wanted to have a B plot that was more fun, sillier, and I could have, just have more fun with it. Now I would have to look at it and analyze, but I think in my new comic in Kaiju Valentine, I don't think I do B plots. It's just I mean, there's an ongoing. I mean, in the way we're talking about it, where it's an overarching story. I guess maybe it's one big story. I guess it is. But I think I'm just doing like an A plot.
No, there's A and B because
Maybe I'm wrong. Yeah, go ahead.
Maxi and Minnie, they have two separate stories. Because when they go like apart, and then you had say I can't remember the other girls' names, but
yeah,
so there was Minnie,
Alina, and Loopy.
Yeah, Alina and Loopy. Amazing Alina, yeah. So you had Minnie and her dad, and that was a distinct B plot.
That's true.
Like, oh, we're gonna kill the littles. The littles are gonna destroy the littles. And there was that whole competition between him and the littles.
Right.
And then there was Max, who was, worried about that. And so you do have A and B plots.
I guess so, yeah. Definitely not as deliberate. Like it's, you'd have to pick it apart to look at it. Mostly I'm just kind of following along. I roughly know where things are going, but I haven't really split it into standalone episodes on purpose anyway. Like maybe it kind of happens. You have a story that kind of ends and then a next arc begins or whatever. But yeah.
Well, at the moment we've just got an A. At the very moment, because we're just following Max. We don't know what's going to happen to him.
We'll have to cut away to see if we can get a B plot going.
Yeah, or another A.
Or another A.
It's fine to do. Like you could do, doing multiple A's, sure, because those are two prime storylines. Doing multiple B's, people don't really think in those terms.
No.
Because you can only, have so many gradations. So then you would be thinking in terms of B, C, and D if you had multiple minor storylines. Because you'd be grading them. Oh, yeah, that one's more important and that one's less important. Yeah, you wouldn't be thinking, oh, yes, these are all equally important, but not as important as the A plot.
I mean, if for a particular story, maybe as things go forward, if I need to do that, I'll do that. But yeah, overall, so far, where I'm at now, I don't think I would even... Story. And if it's too much of one thing and I want to cut away, I can do that. If not, just kind of keep it going.
Okay.
I don't know if that's a good way to do it, but that's how I'm doing it.
It's a way to do it, and it works. So there you go. Like we talked about the formulaic nature of a lot of Hollywood stuff. That gets irritating because stuff is just like stuck in buckets. Okay, this is the A plot bucket, this is the B plot bucket. And that gets a bit like, it gets really obvious. The structure gets too obvious and then it gets boring. With our stuff, it's more organic because we're not structuring it to a formula. It's just going along as it goes along. Because, we don't have to do a formula. And we don't have the same time and budget constraints and all that kind of bullshit. But it also means things are a lot more natural and they flow a lot easier, and it's, just, nicely organic and it fits.
Yeah, I
so
agree.
We just naturally... Oh, God.
I would say the downside is structure is very helpful. The main way is that it helps things not drag. Like that's why I like having these structure things in general. I'm not really paying attention to it in the comics I'm doing right now, for better or worse. But it is good to have in mind that like at some point like there should be some kind of turn. There should be some kind of like all is lost moment, and then the characters rally back, and you have some kind of resolution to the question. And then even more specifically than that, you have like, oh, things are going a certain way, and then something changes everything, and then you enter a new kind of like an act two kind of thing, if you will. Like it does help, or things can get boring. Those are the stakes we share, even as like webcomic creators. We don't have the financial concerns, but it's the same in that you don't want people to get bored and tune out. You want it to work, So, yeah, I mean, there's room to play with that, but
as long as it's not forced, which it can sometimes happen with, when you adhere too strongly to a kind of structure.
Yeah. I think the advantage with webcomics is that, as you said, there is an organic development to them that if you have your plot solidly plotted out and you know what's going to happen and what everyone is doing, you can easily switch between characters and where they are without really having to think about, oh, my A plot, oh, my B plot. And the B plot and the A plot just fall into place on their own. So that is the thing.
That's true. I like stuff that falls into place on its own.
That's great.
That way.
I love it when that happens. Yeah.
I love it when a plan comes together. Oh, there we are, the A-team.
Yeah, they probably didn't have B. I mean, maybe they had B plots. I don't know. Like sometimes there'd be a thing with one of the characters going through something, even if it was kind of shallow or whatever.
They always had B plot.
Did they? Yeah, it's been too long. I shouldn't have said that even. Yeah, I barely remember. I remember one where they were going through a regular A-team type mission, but Murdoch, who enjoyed being locked up in an asylum for some reason, was declared sane.
So I remember that one.
Actually. He was very traumatized. Like that was the B story, I think, if memory serves. And at the end, he gets locked up again. I don't think I'll rewatch the show.
I rewatched one years ago. And it was really boring.
Oh, one episode.
Yeah, it was a Boy George episode, and it was. But mainly, maybe it was worse because it was a Boy George episode. A celeb kind of thing, like a guest star, and Boy George was so at odds with the whole A-team feel, so maybe that was why it was so boring.
Imagine, yeah. Wow.
Yeah, it was snooze. I watched that and thought, why did I ever like the A-team? They can't all be like this. It's terrible.
I mean, it was for kids at the time,
Well, young adults.
Everyone
but yeah, I don't know.
Loved it when I was a kid. Yeah. Like all the kids loved it. Talked about it all the time.
Yeah, it was the best. I will have to try another episode. Because A-Team is actually quite like MacGyver in that the whole thing's centered around, like, not just direct action. It's centered around unusual ways of solving things. So they'd be making like a jury-rigged crossbow or something like that to blast through a propane tank in order to blow up gates so they could escape. It would always be about that kind of stuff. And that was just like MacGyver, he was doing the same kind of thing. He was doing clever solutions.
What we haven't talked about, the B plot being the romantic one.
Yeah, that's the normal thing in a movie, right? Like,
your
B plot would be your love story.
Yeah, which personally I don't like most of the times. I'm not gonna say that I don't like it at all. It can be written really well, but usually it's not good. Yeah.
Right, because of the formula.
Yeah.
Romantic B plot, or is the romantic plot like a C plot?
If there is, I mean, it definitely can be a C plot, but often it is the B plot when you are lazy. Like,
Yeah.
you keep the A plot going, and the B plot is again the people in the A plot while they are romancing each other. And the problem I have with that is that often it is done very awkwardly, like in places where you wouldn't have people geared to flirt. Like, you are facing death at any moment, and then you pause for some reason to flirt with the other guy that is also, facing death. And or even worse, like, you have bombs falling all around you. You have sequestered yourself in a shed that might also get blown off the face of the earth, but now you have sex in that for some reason. So
Right.
yeah, that doesn't happen in real life, and doesn't shouldn't happen in fiction either, because it makes no sense. Right? Yeah.
Yeah, what I hate in that kind of stuff is when, okay, so your main A plot is like they're attacking the baddie, and through the course of that, this guy meets this girl, and they're running together, and her brother just gets killed in one scene, and the next scene they're kissing each other, and you think, what?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah,
And
what?
that actually has a creep factor in it, because in psychology there is this element of when you are feeling like very grieved, you are extremely vulnerable and stuff. It is very easy to sort of regress into a need for physical intimacy that has nothing to do with romance, and it is very easy to be taken advantage of, basically like you are drunk. So the guy that takes, or the woman, doesn't matter the gender, or the guy on guy, I really don't care. Whoever,
Girl, oh girl, guy,
yeah,
guy, girl, guy, guy.
any
Oh, God.
combination where you have one person deep in grief and the other guy comes on to the other person comes on to them, that is creepy, because you are taking advantage of them in some way.
Yeah.
So yeah,
So that could have some
It's
have
so-
some grit to it if it was done that way. I think in these movies you're talking about, in shows, it's not being done that way. It's just being forced in there, switching gears, a sexy scene or a romantic scene. I guess maybe the modern version of that in a lot of big movies is the forced comedy, which can get so annoying, like overdoing the comedic stuff in life and death situations to
Oh
to
my
give
God.
audiences candy.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's a
or
pet
whatever. It's like, oh, look at this! Like, now we'll be silly and have this word play.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we are getting dead. Our friends, half of friends are already dead, but we are gonna crack jokes.
Yeah.
And actually, I have to say this: when we were collaborating with Pit Face on Brave Resistance, we have this bunch of Americans that are flying towards Greece to bomb this railway or whatever. They get ambushed, and then Hunter drops in Greece. But while they're getting there, they are bantering with each other. The classic bromance level banter.
Mhm.
And the whole idea was that they are bantering while they are not in danger. When danger strikes, there is no banter. There is,
Yeah, they take it
yeah,
seriously.
there is, I'm getting shot. There's nothing else. And we did that on purpose. So
Yeah.
I had to say that. Yeah.
For sure, it can work. And based on like what you said about romance or being vulnerable in grief, similar with comedy. Like, some people joke. I can't think of any examples in real life offhand. Maybe some people I know very well make jokes, as an antidote to emotion, or to say to being scared or to being vulnerable. Like, people will have the defense mechanism of humor. Why can't I talk? And that's a very, very common thing. If it's done in that way, in a way that seems genuine, and like say a soldier is afraid, or various soldiers are afraid, so they're cracking jokes, very believable. Right?
Yeah. No, that's believable, especially if you see that they are afraid and they are doing it, to help each other. That's absolutely believable. And also, you could have, like, there is this saying that a funeral is not complete unless someone cracks a joke, and that is something very real. I remember there is this very heavy film called Steel Magnolias, and it is very heavy. You can see it. I'm not gonna go into it because I don't like thinking about it. But there is this scene of extreme, very deep grief, and there are two ladies that are grieving together, and one says something that is funny in context. It's not a crack, it's not cracking a joke, but she says something that is funny in context, and they start laughing within grief.
Yeah.
And that is very believable. Because they are laughing, but they are not happy, that sort of thing. So, yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, then it can be great and real. And as a bonus, it can be a tension reliever for the audience, too. It's like when it's forced in there for the audience, because they think the audience has a short attention span or whatever they're thinking, then it can get annoying and has gotten annoying.
It does get annoying, indeed. What were you saying about soldiers cracking jokes? Yeah, it can. The other thing is that soldiers will have a very dark sense of humor.
Yeah.
So they will do those kind of jokes, but not be silly funny. Not in battle. Yeah, it'll be dark kind of jokes about stuff.
Yeah.
And they can do that even when they're doing something more serious.
Sure.
But yeah, it's very dark. So it does fit with the theme of what they're doing.
Yeah, but it has to be dark though, and basically anyone that isn't in that situation would probably find that shocking rather than funny. So
yeah,
exactly. But and they're not doing it for they're not doing it because they don't care about things or whatever. It's because that's just what makes them think about that kind of stuff. It's not because they're monsters.
Like a survival mechanism kind of thing, right? Like,
exactly.
Keep yourself from total despair. And you have like sort of nurses and doctors and like people who are dealing with really heavy things, like similar.
I think MASH did a good, had a great way of writing that kind of humor. The series MASH.
Right. Yeah, it was all about that, right? With the funny Hawkeye, the doctor, jokester.
Yeah, and he was not being like funny for the audience. That was humor that you would expect to hear in context.
Right.
Yeah. It was. I didn't like MASH. Oh my god, the suicide is painless. Oh, hated that. When that came on, it was a sign to turn off. A lot of other people love it. Ay. All right, then. Let's wrap it up because we got places to be. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you.
So, yeah, did this Ditko guy ever, you ever find him, Baines? You know, what happened? He was impersonating you at the beginning, but...
I'm going to look into it. I'm obviously way too important to worry about that kind of thing, but... I have bigger fish to fry, bigger whales to fry.
Yeah. And as we know, you are never wrong, so...
Exactly.
We can tell the difference.
Yeah. Exactly. Okay, well, you go back into the Trump administration and do your important work. All right. Thanks very much for listening to Quackcast 721, the first actual Quackcast recorded in 2025. Bye, people.
Bye-bye.
Bye.